You are listening to Kiss Fever Radioactive. Here up next, a great interview with the famous keyboard player, composer, and producer, Mr. Gary Corbett. Enjoy.
Take your time.
Okay. This is Gary Corbett. I want to say hello to all my friends with Kiss Fever Radioactive, and I wish you were all here to celebrate with us tonight here in Madrid.
Okay, people, here we are with the great, the only, the phantom of Kiss, Gary Corbett. How are you, Gary?
I'm wonderful. How are you? It's great to see you.
Okay, let's start this interview talking about the beginning of your career. Many people and Kiss fans knows you about your work in Kiss, but how did you start it? With what bands? Where are your influences?
Well, I started playing very young because I loved the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and the Dave Clark Five and all the English bands from the 60s. But of course I was too young. I was in bands, but I was too young to play shows or do anything until I got to be a teenager. Mm-hmm. And my influences then were Emerson, Lake and Palmer and Deep Purple, and that's what I grew up with, Led Zeppelin and all the great 70s music. But I really didn't start working with... The first band I played with was in 77. I played with Ian Hunter from Mata Hoople. And I was filling in for somebody. That was a short tour. But the next thing that really started my career was writing the song She Bop for Cyndi Lauper in 84. And that's really where it all took off from.
One second. One question. Your video has audio?
Yeah, of course.
Your video?
Yeah.
Because there is no way that we can hear your video.
They have to take the output from the computer to the soundboard. I thought that's why they were checking it. That's
your video. I'm talking about your video.
Yeah, but the audio comes out of the computer.
Okay, seguimos. Okay, you mentioned Cyndi Lauper.
Yes.
In the 84.
Yes.
So, which are keyboard players' influences? I mean, maybe John Lord, Keith Edmonds, or Ken Hensley.
Yes, all of them.
All of them.
It started with Jerry Lee Lewis because I was taking piano lessons from the age of 4. Mm-hmm. My dad loved country music, loved Johnny Cash, loved Jerry Lee Lewis, and so as soon as I was taking piano lessons, that's what my dad would always ask me to play. Play like Jerry Lee Lewis, and we'd wait to see him on television on the Ed Sullivan Show, and he was crazy, and he'd get up and kick over the piano stool. So he was a big influence, and I actually got to meet him later on and played with his band, and we jammed together. It was great. It was awesome.
Okay, and how was your first contact with Kiss? Many people know, but it's good that you tell.
Okay, so I was working at Electric Lady Studios in New York City. I was working on a project that was in the studio for like a month. And, every day I'd go to the coffee machine, and one day I was at the coffee machine and I met Phil Ashley. And we started talking and we became friends. And in that first conversation, I mentioned that I was a little tired of being in the studio and was ready to go on the road and change things up a little bit. And that was the end of the conversation. We both went back to the rooms we were working in, and and then about a week or 2 weeks later, he called me and he said that he had done a record with Lou Gramm, and that he was going to do the tour with Lou, and that he had actually gotten a call to go out on tour with Mick Jagger, who was going on a solo tour, and so Phil wanted to do the Mick Jagger tour, and so he put me with Lou Gramm. And then about a week later, he called me and said that he had been working on the new Kiss record with Paul Stanley, and that they were going to be wanting to take a keyboard player out on the road, and that he was not interested in doing it because he was going to be away, and if it was something I would be interested in. And I said sure, and I went and met Paul at the manager's office with Chris Lent.
Okay, most of the Kiss fans knows that you were a real close friend of Eric Carr. Do you have any story to tell the people that, like myself, never know Eric Carr, that can describe it with that story?
Well, I can tell you, I can't think of a specific story, but what I can tell you is he loved being the drummer in Kiss. He loved the fans. He loved everything about it. He loved playing on stage. He just loved it. And there was never a time where he wouldn't stop and talk to as many fans as there were. And sometimes it was an inconvenience, but he never would leave until everybody was happy. And he was a really special person. That much I can tell you.
And you were part of the solo band of Paul Stanley for a tour. And Paul in his autobiography, in his biography book, told that Eric was he knows that maybe he was chosen for that tour. Is it true? And he was very disappointed when he picked up Eric Singer?
Yeah, well, because Eric was a bit insecure just in general as a person, which is strange because, you would think he'd be very confident being the drummer in Kiss, but he really wasn't. And he wanted to do the solo tour, and Paul said he couldn't do it because then it would be half of Kiss, and it didn't make sense. Then it wouldn't be a solo tour, which made sense. But that didn't matter. It still hurt his feelings that he didn't get to do it. And when he came to the Ritz to see the show, when we played in New York, the very first thing he said to me when he walked into the dressing room after the show, he pointed at Eric Singer and he said, "That guy's gonna have my job." And I said to him, "You're crazy. What are you talking about? You're the drummer in Kiss." And he was in a band called Badlands that just was finishing their first record. They were getting ready to go on tour. He wasn't trying to steal the gig in Kiss. He had no interest in stealing the gig. So it was just nonsense at that point. But the way things worked out, Paul liked Eric Singer. They became friends because of the tour. And when Paul moved to Los Angeles and was writing songs for the new Kiss record, and he wanted to cut demos, Eric Carr was still in New York. Eric Singer lived in LA, so it's only natural that you would call a friend to come do me a favor, play some drums on a demo. At that point, I don't really think there was ever any intentions of that. Okay.
You have participation on the Hot in the Shade tour and in the Crazy Nights tour.
Yes.
Do you, when you finished the first tour and rejoined for the second, do you feel that something changed in the band, in the mood of the band, or it was the same band?
It was the same. It was the same. I think the mood on Crazy Nights was not very good because there was not very good ticket sales. And if nobody comes to the shows, then that's you got to have people there in order to do a great show. And so I think that affected the mood of the band, and that changed some things during that first tour. And we had some problems during that first tour because of that, because I was a new addition and a new expense to them, and if they're not making the money they expect to, you got to cut expenses. And I guess I was a big expense, so it caused some tension between us. But once we worked it out during that tour, until I stopped working with them, we never had another problem.
Okay, you mentioned that when you joined Kiss, you were never really a fan of the music. You like the music, but you're not a fan of music. Is there any song that you would really like to play with them and never did it? No.
I mean, I played all the great ones with them. I think. I mean, we never played Beth. So, and as a keyboard player, I think that one would have been a natural for the show. But they weren't letting people know they had a keyboard player, so to do Beth really wouldn't have worked. But aside from that one, I mean, we played any song I was aware of that I ever liked.
Is it true that you made an audition for Blackjack?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
When you were very, very young?
Yes.
Yeah?
And when I met Bruce for the second time, when I first got to Los Angeles for the Crazy Nights rehearsals, the first place I met them was a TV show that they were doing called Top of the Pops. And they brought me to the TV studio, and I was being introduced to everybody. And Bruce was like, "You look familiar from somewhere." And and when I told him about the Blackjack thing, he said, "Oh yeah, because you were that young kid that was too young to." So yeah,
that's interesting. And as a keyboard player, producer, songwriter, how do you see the musical scene right now? I mean, it's kind of. How do you see it?
I don't really pay attention to a lot of new music. First of all, it's so hard to find anything new that's good because there's no more record stores. It used to be that was part of the fun of finding new music, was going to Tower Records and just looking through or hearing what they were playing or seeing what displays were in the store. And now everything is on the internet, and it's not really sold in a way that is making people aware of stuff. So it takes so much effort now to find anything new. Mm-hmm. I don't have the time. Mm-hmm. And because 90% of what I find I don't really think is good, I don't want to spend the time. Mm-hmm. I would love to find some new bands that I like, but it's very rare.
And is there any old band, or maybe that is active right now, that you would really play with them? Is there any band that you say, "Oh, I think I really like with, I don't know"?
Well, I mean,
Deep Purple.
Yes, if that's the one that keeps coming to my mind. Deep Purple. But that's also dangerous, to try to step into those shoes of John Lord. Mm-hmm. I would be very nervous to do it, because you also got to remember the fans are used to one thing, and sometimes it's just because it's a new thing, it's not going to be accepted. Mm-hmm. Look at John Corbett when he was in Motley Crue. Mm-hmm. He did a great record with them. Mm-hmm. He's a great singer, probably a better singer than Vince, right? Mm-hmm. But nobody wanted to hear it.
No, that's right.
And it sucks. Mm-hmm. It's hard, and it's the same. Look, when I was playing with Cinderella, we would try to do songs that were not the 12 songs that everybody expected to hear. Mm-hmm. And that makes the show go down the tubes, mm-hmm. and so you can't argue with that. It's the same thing like with Kiss. When we did the Monsters of Rock tour, mm-hmm. We started the Crazy Nights tour doing probably 6 or 7 songs from the Crazy Nights record. But all the fans wanted to hear was Strutter and Deuce.
Yeah.
So when we started the Monsters of Rock tour in the summer of '88, and they were putting together the set list, they pulled out, a lot of great songs, and it made the set a really exciting set, even to me, because those are songs I knew, and to watch the reactions of the audience when they went into them, you can't argue with it. You could still say, well, too bad, I want to play the new music, but then your show is going to suck. So is it worth it? So, because at the end of the day, you're making the music for the fans. Mm-hmm. So if the fans would rather hear the old stuff, then what are you going to do?
Okay. If you have to pick one highlight moment when you were with Kiss, do you have something in mind? Do you have?
I do, but I don't know if I could say it on the radio. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do have one highlight moment. I can't say. No, even though Argentina is very far away, I just can't. But
maybe one special show that you say.
Yeah, well, I was going to just say that. As far as special shows go, mm-hmm. Donington, mm-hmm. The Monsters of Rock tour in Donington mm-hmm. was a great show, and mm-hmm. it was 120,000 people, mm-hmm. and it was really successful. Mm-hmm. Just played great, and even all the reviews in the magazines said it was great, and part of the reason they thought it was great was because they broke out all the old songs.
Yeah. And well, just to finish, because you have to go downstairs, which are your moment right now? I mean, what are you doing? What are your future plans?
Well, I'm always doing something. I just finished a CD with the Nelson Twins, and they're talking about going and playing some shows with it. We'll see. I've been playing with I live in Nashville now, so I've also been doing some work with country music singers. Although I don't really do the traditional country stuff as much as more like southern rock, which is more my style. And I'm working with a new artist now called the Shane Dawson Band that I'm producing and playing keyboards, and so that's going to be coming out. We just finished the first video, and we've recorded 5 songs, and we're going to record the next 5 and complete a CD, and that will be out it might be out by the time I get back to the States. So.
Okay, Gary, something you want to add to all our listeners in Kiss Fever Radioactive?
I just love the fact that it exists. You know, it's anywhere you go in this world, there's a branch of the Kiss Army or some kind of Kiss fan clubs that are keeping it alive. I mean, it's unlike any other band I've ever seen. It's amazing. And so, I mean, it's just amazing. I thank you. That's all I can say.
Okay, Gary, thank you very much for this interview.
My pleasure.
Let me record this, and we're going to record a salute.
Okay.
Just a second.